Welcome back to the Mental Wealth Podcast. Today we've got a bit of a different episode.
Yeah, so the main reason why we started the podcast is mainly to provide value for our audience. So taking it right back to when I was a teenager, selling stuff on Amazon. I was actually selling lunchboxes, then moved on to property and now looking to acquire businesses in the M&A space. What about yourself? What's your next goals for you?
So for me now, I think I'm quite interested in the M&A stuff, which stands for mergers and acquisitions. We'll go on to that a little bit in a bit because it's quite an interesting thing, and I think it's a massive game changer.
Would you say like it instilled a lot of discipline in your day-to-day life?
Mate,
yeah, exactly.
That's what it is. Like, I mean, don't get me wrong, no one wants to fail. Of course they don't.
Yeah, but you are going to fail ultimately.
Yeah, of course you've got to fail. Because
Yeah.
otherwise you're not going to learn, are you?
Yeah. So what is your drive? Why did you start this whole business? What's your goal December 2024?
Yes, guys. So first bit, we're going to talk about a little bit about where we've come from, the stuff that we've been doing, things that we've been working on over the last sort of year and a half. So Abesh, just so that everyone listening can sort of find out a little bit about yourself, talk to me about what's been happening. Well, I'll tell you what, talk about from the start. Where did you go to school?
Yeah, so I went to school in Farnborough, called Cove School, and did my GCSEs there, went to college, and that was pretty much all my studies. After that, there's no educational system that I attended, but yeah.
Wicked. So, and where did you go straight from there?
So after I finished college, I joined the British Army, and I just turned 18, and I joined the army when I was 18, and then ever since then I've been serving. So it's been pretty good actually, and I enjoy it. It's been pretty good.
Wicked. So what sort of stuff do you do in the army now?
So I am a admin, so I do HR, and there's a term that we say SSA is basically like a lawyer type. It's just one level below, I believe, but I basically handle like all the discipline stuff, and that's pretty much it.
Wicked. So I know obviously you do a bit of sort of property stuff and M&A stuff. What was it that made you think, do you know what, I don't want to just be in the army more. I want to do a little bit more.
Yeah, I feel like I wanted more in life. I feel like because I've always had a business entrepreneurial mindset from a very young age. So taking it right back to when I was a teenager, you know the like selling chocolates and selling shoes, and I really went on from there. Started selling stuff. I then started selling stuff on Amazon. Well, I was actually selling lunchboxes, just pretty much transitioned from there, selling lunchboxes, then moved on to property, and now looking to acquire businesses in the M&A space. What about yourself? Because I know you're in the property sector yourself. What's your next goals for you?
So for me now, I think I've built up the property space to where I sort of want it now. I'm quite interested in the M&A stuff, which stands for mergers and acquisitions. We'll go on to that a little bit in a bit because it's quite an interesting thing, and I think it's a massive game changer. But I'm quite interested in that at the minute, so I'm probably going to look to go into that. So yeah. That's
good, man. So let's talk about your background to all the audience that are going to be watching as well. So how did you start in property? Just for the audience that are going to be watching, who is Ed?
Ed is a whirlwind. Mate, so when I left school with pretty much, I couldn't get into university because I didn't have the right grades. So I'm not a very good learner. I'm not like a sit down and do essays and all that sort of stuff. I really struggle with that sort of thing. I'm more of a practical sort of worker. So when I left school, I was just like, do you know what? I've just got to earn some money and go from there because I can't go to university. And to be honest with you, I probably would have just gone to university for drinking and probably that sort of just to get into that sort of atmosphere. Do you know what I mean? So I probably would have been there for the wrong reasons. But from then, I literally went from that to being a chef. I was a chef for 3 years, like cooking at quite a good level, and from there, man, it was just, I was like, I can't be doing this. Like, don't get me wrong, I love cooking, and I love cooking, but chefing is chaos. Like hundreds, I was like 18 and working 100 hours a week in the kitchen, like stressing out, mate. Like cooking is no joke. And don't get me wrong, I'm sure there's some kitchens out there that are good, but I didn't see any of them, mate. It was just stressful. And then from there, I worked with my mum actually in a bank. I went and worked for Lloyd's Bank, which was all right. Like it was it was all right money, and it's just boring, man. Like I can't sitting in an office every day, Monday to Friday. It just boring. Like it weren't for me. I knew it weren't for me. And then from there, I was like, I need to do more. So, I need to do something that's going to make my brain tick a little bit more. So from then, I went into policing. So I worked for Essex Police for 6 years, and I finished last year. But man, policing it's just chaos, mate. Like it was like that happy medium though. Do you know what I mean? Like you would have the active, physical, chaotic stuff, like where your adrenaline's going, and that's why you're joining the police a lot of the time, because it's like you get a buzz from it, and obviously you want to help people, and you get all of that mixed into one. But then also with that, you get sitting down at an office, sitting down on in the computer, a lot of just sitting down. And by the end of my time there, it seemed like that was overtaking the actual practical policing side, because, mate, I can't talk too badly of the police, but because I wouldn't be where I am now today without it. But it's not going down a good road, man. Like there's so many things that they need to change, and things that need to work better with it. But yeah, it's just chaos, mate.
Would you say like it instilled a lot of discipline in your day-to-day life?
I'll tell you what, the thing that I took from the policing, which I know a lot of the guys listening are people that I used to work with, etc. And a lot of people sort of who I still speak to now in the police, they say like, oh, do you know what, I can't take this policing anywhere else. I can't do anything with it. But you can. You're talking to random members of the public every day. Like a lot of people get really nervous when they're talking to people and all that sort of stuff. So with policing, for example, you're talking to so many different people, so many different backgrounds, so many different beliefs, so many different everything. So you get such a varied view on life. Do you know what I mean? And you can literally talk. Ultimately, you're talking people to calm them down all the time. So you work out how to work people out, what works, what doesn't work. Do you know what I mean? And taking that into the property space, obviously a lot of the time I'm talking to landlords, talking to different people, trying to get business, blah blah blah. Ultimately, you're working with people, and you're sort of that sort of come with it. Like when I talk to people, if I can sort of get a gauge if it's not working, I can get a gauge if what I'm saying is not working with what they're, cut that out. So yeah, so from the policing side of stuff. So yeah, mate, policing has brought a big thing into my life. Like it's like you say, it is discipline, but also it's just being able to talk to people from all different backgrounds, all different everything, and you can sort of bring that into whatever you're looking to go with. So yeah, bringing that into the property space, how I sort of got into that was the last sort of team that I worked with. We used to work a lot with like councils and different companies that worked with councils, etc. So it was then that I found out about this thing called temporary accommodation, which is basically housing people from the council that are awaiting council properties. So what that means is basically, say for example, you had a mum and kid that went to the council and said like, oh, we need a property because I haven't, like, say for example, they split up with their boyfriend or whatever. We need a property. The council will say, right, yeah, we'll give you a property, but we don't have one readily available. So what they'll do is they'll put that into something called temporary accommodation, which is, and mate, they say temporary, it can be for like 2-3 years. Like, I mean, it technically is temporary, but it's a long time. So basically the council just pay a premium on that, and then ultimately you house them, and then yeah, you make money from that way, really.
Yeah, and you're on 25 right now, isn't it?
Yeah, got up to 25 since May last year. So mate, it's just spiraled.
What's your goal for 2024? December 2024. How many properties do you want to reach?
Mate, like I mentioned earlier, I don't think I really want too many more. I think I've built up quite a good relationship with a lot of landlords that have got quite a few properties. So I think for me now, it's more going down the route of I'll take some more if they come, but I want to look into sort of the mergers and acquisitions stuff just to sort of diversify myself a little bit. So yeah, I think I'll look into do that. But I think that's probably a good time for us to sort of talk a little bit about mergers and acquisitions. So I know you got in it a little bit earlier than I did. What was it about it that sort of made sense to you, and what was it that you liked about it?
I just feel like, obviously, I'm no guru or I'm no mentor or anything, so I can only speak of what I've experienced and what I'm going through right now. And I just feel like it makes so much more sense to actually buy a business than to start from scratch. Because if you think about it, all the marketing campaign and lettering campaign, all the running around that you do to build a business, is so much effort that you put in. But obviously there's effort that you put in when you are looking to buy a business as well. But I think the buying businesses outweighs more than starting a business, if that makes sense. And yeah, it's already systemized, there's already staff in place, it's already got recurring revenue that's coming in. So it just made sense for me to, venture into that route and just have my property management on the side, just letting the cash flow come in, but actively focusing it on mergers and acquisition. That is the goal, acquiring 2 by the end of 2024. But let's see.
I've no doubt you will, mate, because it is. I know obviously my brother does it, doesn't he? And I say it's changed his life big time. So I would definitely recommend anyone that wants to sort of change their life, look for something a little bit more. Big up D Ludlow and the 5D Capital Partners, because, mate, they are smashing it. And you've got to follow them on Instagram, message them, get involved. It is honestly a game changer. And it's a lot of people don't know about it.
Yeah, exactly. Like, it's just one of those where people don't really research about it. Do you know what I mean? Like, when you think of buying businesses, you feel like, you probably need like a lot of money. But if you really look at the intricacies of it, there's a lot of strategies in place that you can implement. So yeah, you just got to do your education, I guess, on whatever it may be, property, M&A. It's just like when you want to become a doctor or just anything in general, education-wise, you have to educate beforehand, and just so you know what you're doing. So taking it back to when you was in the police, you was comfortable. What was it that gave you that extra push to start in that property business? Because not a lot of people do that when they're in a full-time job, they're comfortable. So what gave you the extra push to, take that risk and start a property temporary accommodation business?
Yeah, so there's a couple of things really. So the first thing, which was probably the biggest drive for me, and I know it was the same for my brother as well. So a few years ago, my mum died, and it was quite suddenly. It was probably just after COVID. It was just after that sort of era, and she basically went away on holiday, came back, and yeah, she just got really ill and then died within a few months. So obviously it's tragic, it's terrible. Like it was mad. It was a mad time in my life. So just during all that sort of stuff, it just made you realise, I think, until someone goes through something like that, it's like it triggers something in your brain, like life is short, man. Like life is very short. And what you need to remember is you only get one go at life. Do you know what I mean? And you never know what's around the corner. So for me, I just thought to myself, like, my mum had literally worked her whole life to the point of retirement. So she was literally, I think she'd just retired or just about to retire. And all of a sudden she got ill and died. And you just think to yourself, like, what am I doing? Like, I'm working for, like, for example, I was in the police at the time. I'm working for the police. I'm putting my life on the line for not a lot of money. And I thought to myself, like, there is so much more out there than me doing this. Do you know what I mean? Like, even if I was earning similar money and working less, like, you've got to remember that your life is more valuable than what you're doing for work. So from that, my brother also, it was the same thing with him. He triggered in his brain, and he went and joined the 5D group. And obviously that was a massive change for him, and he obviously started acquiring businesses, all that sort of stuff. So at that point I thought to myself, like, if he can do it, I can do it. Like, he's obviously my big brother. Like, I was like, no, I can definitely do this. I didn't go down that route straight away, but I started joining him on networking events and things like that. And if anyone doesn't do networking, you need to do networking, because when you meet loads of like-minded individuals, it's such a game changer, isn't it? And from that, I was meeting people that were doing cool stuff, making a lot of money. I know it's not always about the money, but everyone does love money. Like, don't get me wrong, of course they do. That's why people work, don't they? So I was meeting people that were doing really cool stuff. I went to Dubai with the 5D group, and then I ended up hearing about Sean Davis, who might be a future guest on the show. And he started telling me about all the social housing stuff, which I didn't have any clue about. And yeah, man, it just spiraled from there. It just spiraled from there, and I just thought to myself, like, mate, I can do this. Like, I know I can do this. And yeah, you got to have a little bit of money behind you, but there's of course people can save money, can't they? Like, if you actually put your mind to it and you stop getting takeaways and you stop like delivery, it's like 30, 40 quid a pop, innit? If you start saving that money up, mate, it doesn't take long to get a good amount of money. And like you mentioned earlier, like, you've got to put that money into something that matters, like education, because if you don't learn it, you're never going to know, are you? So yeah, man, I think after you go to these networking events and you meet people that are doing it and doing well from it, it gives you that fire in your belly to think, do you know what, if they can do it, I can do it. Like, everyone, I'm a firm believer that anyone can do anything. You just got to put your mind to it.
Yeah, like, exactly. You got to put your mind to it, and you have to take risks, I think. Because if you don't take risks, it's like the cliche saying, there's no reward if you don't take risks. Like, for example, when we went to Marbella, that was some sort of a risk, I would say, because it was quite a lot of money that we had to put in. And we could have just easily been like, there's thousands of pounds that we have to spend to go there. I don't want to take that risk. I would rather use that money for somewhere else. But we took that risk, did that self-investment within ourselves, and yeah, we're here now. So, but yeah, like you said, networking is so key, because you don't know who you know, and with networking as well, I started off with just going to like the local pin meetings, the ones that they do like every Tuesday by Simon Zutzi. Started off with networking there, and it just slowly started spiraling up. Because I get a lot of people that ask me like, how are you going on these networking events? I just say, I just don't talk about it too much. I just look at my plan, like my diary, and I just pencil it in and I just go for it. And sometimes I feel like you just have to just go for it. Like, don't think about it too much.
You're right, mate. Because ultimately, it's like anything. If people are sitting there, like, for example, whatever job they're in, whether it's the police, whether it's in the army, whether it's whatever you're doing, like a nurse or anything, if you're sitting there thinking like, I want to do something else, or I'd love to do property, or I'd love to buy businesses, or I'd love to do whatever you want to do, like, if you're sitting there thinking that, like, if you're not doing anything to actually get to that point, if you're not doing education, if you're not watching YouTube videos, if you're not going to networking events that are all about that sort of subject, like, it's not just going to happen. Like, I think that's a massive thing that people need to realise. Like, things like that don't just happen. Do you know what I mean? Like, you need to actually put some effort in. Don't get me wrong, yeah, you might get lucky, you win the lottery, yeah, bingo, you're rich. Other than that, it's all about yourself. You've got to put the effort in and actually do something about what you want to do, and then it will come. Does that make sense?
Yeah, like, you need to put yourself out there, ultimately, And I think what is a massive barrier in our day and age is we think about what most people are going to think of us. Do you know what I mean? Like, and there's times where sometimes when you want to do like a social media post for your own personal branding, or if you've just started a business, whatever it may be, and you just think like, what if someone else says something about this of me? He started another business. Like, we're so sentimental when it comes to starting something new, because we have that barrier in our head that, what if this person thinks of this of me?
Yeah, that's what it is. Like, I mean, don't get me wrong, no one wants to fail. Of course they don't.
But you are going to fail ultimately.
You've got to fail, because otherwise you're not going to learn, are you? Yeah. And that's what it's all about. If you don't, the thing is, if you keep making the same mistake, then you'll be an idiot. But if you make a mistake and you learn from it and don't make it again, then that's growing, isn't it? That is life. Do you know what I mean? So, Abesh, I think it would be good for us to sort of explain what it is, why we started the podcast, what the listeners are really going to sort of get from it.
Yeah, so the main reason why we started the podcast is mainly to provide value for our audience, because the guests that we have coming on, they're pretty much expertise at what they do, and basically just thought of it as it would be very good to provide value to all the audience that are going to be watching the video, and that's ultimately it. To be honest, there's no really long story towards it. It's just that's it, really.
Yeah, I think, let's say for us, because it's like, because we've met these sort of people, a lot of the guys we've met, like we met them in Marbella, we met them at networking events, stuff like that. And obviously we'll have people that we haven't met before, but have obviously got a big following or whatnot. But I think it's sort of makes you realise that when you speak to these and listen to these sort of people that are doing well, it's just finding out about their mindset. And I think that's such a key part of business and lifestyle, isn't it? Because ultimately, a lot of people, they're no different to anyone else, are they? Like, they're no different to you and I, they're no different to anyone. Ultimately, they're just people that have put their mind into something that they really want to do. And then all of a sudden, it's paid off for them. And then they're doing well.
Exactly. Like Sean, for example. Like, do you remember when we was in Marbella and, we was just chilling, but his mental resilience, he's always, constantly working. We're eating, we're chilling, but he's there on his phone, like constantly non-stop. And I feel like having that sort of energy around you helps you out a lot as well, because it kind of pushes you as well to want to do better. Because when your surrounding is like that, you think like, okay, he's doing it, she's doing it, I need to get my ass up and I need to start doing it as well. So I think that is a pretty much huge part, that who you surround yourself with is very important.
Yeah, for sure. And I think a lot of the guests that we're going to try and get on it's not just going to be property business, is it? We're going to try and get people from the fitness. We're going to try and see if we can get some people that talk about mental health that are probably a little bit more expert than we are, obviously. And I think we're just trying to, because I know obviously mental health is always a big thing, isn't it? And like I say, I've suffered with it. I'm sure everyone's going to suffer it within their life. Do you know what I mean? So I think it's how you come out of that, or it's how you adapt to it and move on from it is the key part of it, isn't it? So if we can help, mate, even if we can help a few people, it's positive, isn't it?
Yeah, that's it. Like, you just have to work on yourself ultimately. I feel like it's so easy to make up excuses, and the more excuses you make up, the bigger the hole that you're digging, if you get what I mean. Like, so I think ultimately it all depends on how you tackle obstacles that come through your way, and how you can really stay tunnel vision. And with the guests that we have on and that are going to be coming on, hopefully that will help out the audience and whatever they're going through, whether it's mental health, whether it's if they're having issues with their business, whatever it may be, just some sort of value that we can provide, that would be good. Yeah, sure. I think one very good example before we started the podcast was when I was doing the interviews. And so this guy basically came up to me and he said, I've been looking at your videos and it's really inspired me. And when you normally get it through like a DM, it's like, okay, that's good. Like, at least I helped one person out. But when a person says that to you physically, it kind of, it's weird. It kind of hit different than it would in a text. And I was like, okay, like, at least from that video, I gave some person an extra nudge, some extra value, and it was a sense of relief that I knew that I was doing something good. So yeah, that was a really good feeling to have, and that's also another reason why I thought it would be good to start a podcast, and that's how we both teamed up, and we're here now, and yeah.
Yeah, no, mate, you're 100% correct, because like even since I've left the police, so I left the police in November, so it's only a few months. Mate, I've had loads of messages, people that I meet up with, they're like, "Oh, how are you getting on? How's you finding it?" And I think, like for example, I can only really talk on behalf of like the people in the police and stuff, but they get so, like you said earlier, they get so engrossed in that day-to-day life of, because it's a check every month and need to work, blah, blah, blah. And don't get me wrong, you need to work. Of course you need to work, because you need to pay your bills and all that sort of stuff. But what people need to realise is there's so much more to life.
But yeah, like you said, it's people get very comfortable, like we mentioned earlier, and I feel like most people, they always say, "I'll do it tomorrow. I'll start next week," or "I really want to start a business, but I don't know what to do." And they're always looking for that opportunity, but they're not gonna get that opportunity if they're not out looking. You know what I mean? It's like one of those the theory. I saw it on Instagram the other day. Have you heard about that red car theory? So let's say, all right, how many red cars did you see drive into the studio today? Okay, so if I was to tell you, for every red car you see, bearing in mind this is, before you've left your house to the studio, for every red car that you see, I will give you £100 for every red car that you see. Now, obviously, your mindset is different now, isn't it? And you'd want to go search for the red cars. So, that instills opportunity.
Yeah, no, I get what you mean. It's just having that mindset where you're actually focused on something rather than just going through your day-to-day stuff and think, oh, like you say, I'll do it next week, I'll do it the day after, I'll do it 2 weeks time or whatever.
Like luck and opportunity, they're always passing by on a daily basis, but it's up to you how you seize up that opportunity. If you're thinking about opportunities, if you're thinking about how to make money, anything, then you'll actively go out and look and you see it, and you just have to capitalize on it and go on from there, really. So Ed, I've got a question for you. So what is the one topic or a guest that you want to have on the podcast?
I think I wouldn't be too sure on the guest, because I think probably have to do a little bit of research on someone that's sort of big on it. But I think topic-wise, I think having someone on that's can help people with their sort of mental health, and like if you can sort of mix that in with like fitness, because I find fitness is a really good way for me to keep mentally stable, if that makes sense. Like, don't get me wrong, if I don't not do fitness, I'm not gonna have a breakdown, but you know what I mean? Like I find it's very good, and I'm sure you're the same obviously with the army and that, but like if I haven't worked out, or if I haven't been for a run, or whatever the fitness may be, whether boxing or whatever, if I haven't done that for a while, you just feel a bit like,
yeah, it's one of those where you don't want to do it, but once you do it, that sense of relief is very good.
And I'd say that's a big thing for a lot of people. Like, I know I've got a good friend, Mitch, I'm sure he won't mind me saying, but he loves the gym. And when you speak to him, he says he uses it as like a massive escape from his, like, because he knows that if he doesn't work out, if he just sat at home doing his work or doing whatever, that he'll make him feel like rubbish. And I think once people find, it doesn't have to be the gym, because I know it's boring for a lot of people, but whether you're running, swimming, going for a walk, cycling, whatever it may be, I feel like that's a massive thing for people. Once you find something that you enjoy, stick to that and latch onto it, because I say exercise is such a massive thing in it. And I'd love to have someone on here that's like bit of a fitness guru that can sort of come on and give some advice on that. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, that would be good, like nutrition advice. Yeah, but like you said, like I feel like it also helps out, releases so much stress. Like I didn't really take fitness into account. Like a couple of weeks ago, not weeks, months ago, I wasn't taking it seriously, but having done it quite consistently now, just releases so much stress, and it's just something that you need to implement in your day-to-day life, I believe, just to reduce that stress and have a clear head. And yeah, I feel like you need it, man. It's a must.
So just leading on from that, what is it that you do day to day to keep your sort of mental health and your well-being in check?
So it's kind of touching into fitness. I do fitness every day, 5 days a week. And, I will always find the time to do it, whether it's at night at 11 p.m. or whatever the time may be, I will find the time to do it. And I always write it down. It's always my first thing to do in my notepad. go to the gym, and then that's how I like to start my day off. And yeah, it's just so crucial, and it helps me out a lot just to stay tunnel visioned and just release a lot of stress in my head and start my day off right. And when I do gym in the morning, I feel like I've already accomplished my day, and that's how I start my day off, and then I can then work on the businesses and my other day-to-day tasks from there. So what is your drive? Like, why did you start this whole business?
So I think sort of touching on what I mentioned earlier with my mum, that was obviously the massive drive for me. And my main goal now is to basically try and set myself up so that I can spend as much time with my family as I can. And I've got a little boy who's 4 years old. So, like, for example, now that I've left the police and now I'm working full time for myself, I see him as much as I can. Do you know what I mean? I can see him as much all the time, basically. So I take him to school, all that sort of stuff. So it's like, I feel like that's quite a big part of my family, is a big part of my life. So I love to spend as much time with my family, friends, all that sort of stuff, that as much as I can, if that makes sense. So a big part of what I'm doing now is to sort of build it up to the point where, yeah, I know I'm going to be working, like, for example, with like the M&A stuff. Once that gets going, you're going to put a lot of hours in to start with to get it up to where you want it. But say 10 years later, hopefully you'll get it to the point where you've got 5-6 businesses that are all running themselves, and you're there as ultimately like a overseer. So if there's any issues, they give you a call or whatever. But if you structure it correctly, you won't even need to do that. Because, do you know what I mean? Because you've got people that managers, all that sort of stuff. So my ideal plan will be like, when I'm 40 years old, I'm going to have 5 or 6 businesses, and I won't need to work, if that makes sense. So I can spend as much time with my family and friends and stuff as I can, man. So in your experience, what advice would you give to someone that's either looking to get into property or want to move jobs or want to get into business buying or anything like that? What would you say is the main thing for them to do?
I would say self-improvement. Just work on yourself, be relentless, just hit the gym, get educated, whatever subject it is, whether it's property, M&A. You need to spend so much time on self-improvement that you don't really have time to criticize others. And that's how I like to see it. You're just so tunnel vision on what you want to accomplish, and just air out all the negativity, and just stay tunnel vision, and you get there, man. Because I'm still working on it myself, and I'm trying to implement a lot of self-improvement myself. So I'm just, like I said, I know what my goals is, and I do everything daily to reach that goal, and I just try and stay consistent towards it. And you just go for it. Just don't think about it too much. If you have a goal in mind, write it out and just go for it.
Yeah, I think what you said there is quite, like you say, with the tunnel vision stuff, with like social media and stuff now, where you're following, I don't know, hundreds of different people, like, I don't know, could be property entrepreneurs or business entrepreneurs or celebrities, whatever the thing may be, everything just gets clouded, doesn't it? You're looking at so much different stuff. Oh, I'd like to do that. I'd like to do that. You've got to tunnel it down, haven't you? Because otherwise, if you're doing little bits of everything, then it never gets completed. So you've just got a massive thing that I would say to everyone is, if you find someone that you like the look of, or I say like the look of, not like fancy, but you know what I mean, like the way they work, or they seem like they're genuine. If you meet them at networking events, all that sort of stuff, ask them to be a mentor. Like, if you can actually work alongside someone or work with someone that's actually doing it and smashing it, and yeah, you might have to pay them a little bit of money, but nothing worth having is free, is it? And ultimately, if you find someone and you get a mentor and you end up working with them, and ultimately just copy what they're doing, but in your area or what you want to do, your sector, like, why would you not do that? Because, say, I did that with Sean Davis, and mate, it was a massive game changer for me, because it just made sense. Everything that he said just made sense. Like, I knew what I wanted to do, but I just didn't know how to do it. And ultimately, you know what you want to do, and you question you've got someone there who you can ask questions to, who's doing it, and ultimately they just simplify everything for you, and then bosh, you just implement it and it works.
Yeah, it's just copy and pasting it, isn't it, at the end? But yeah, like you said, with the social media, it is ultimately it's fake. Before, what I used to do was, I just used to post of what I was eating, just my day-to-day life, and I just feel like, what is the point of doing that right now? Like, most things that I post now is mainly business related, anything business related. I don't really post like just random stuff like I used to before. I just don't feel the need, and there's no need for it. Do you know what I mean? I just mainly use IG for like personal branding. Sometimes when I go to the gym, take a few pics of that. But even that's just for my personal progress, so I can look back. And yeah, I think that's what like most content creators do now anyway. Like if you look at like The Rock or like Kendall Jenner, Kylie Jenner, most of the time they're mainly posting about their businesses. They're using it as...
But they've got the following, haven't they? Yeah, it's all marketing. And don't get me wrong, for like marketing on social media, if you've got a good following, mate, you can, like, if you're getting investors' money or whatever like that, like you can, that's what it's for. Like, because ultimately you build a brand on social media, and if it's genuine, and like a lot of people are, but obviously some people aren't, then it works for you, doesn't it?
Yeah, I feel like in this day and age, there's two types of networking. Like obviously there's the physical one where you attend networking events and meet people, but there's another networking event, I feel like, where you showcase yourself through social media. I feel like that's another way of networking, because you can just send DMs across, stuff like that. So yeah, I feel like you really need to utilize social media business-wise purposes.
So guys, on our next episode, we're going to be bringing, I know we've mentioned him a few times during this one, but we've got Sean Davis, who is a very successful property entrepreneur and mentor, who's going to be coming and joining us in the studio. So do us a favour, send some questions in for him. Anything you want to ask him, he's a very knowledgeable guy. So yeah, use this opportunity, get the questions in, and we'll put them over to him.
Yeah, and just to touch on that, if you are in the property space, social housing, or if you're an aspiring property entrepreneur, whatever the case may be, he is the one to watch, because he is smashing it in the social housing space, and his mindset, I believe that the audience will get a lot of value.
Yeah, for sure. Because I know we will talk to him a lot about the property stuff, but like Abesh said, his mindset is, personally, I feel like he's got a billionaire mindset. Like I have no doubts in my mind that he will be worth hundreds and hundreds of million in the future, because he's just, everything about him, he's a very positive person, isn't he? And he's always thinking about how he can grow and how he can do something more. So like I say, he's a very inspiring guy.
All right, guys, so thank you for tuning in. So this video was just a brief intro about ourselves and what we do. It was a bit of a different video to what you would normally get, where we're sat with guests, but yeah, now you guys know a little bit about us, and yeah, hopefully you guys are ready for the next guests that we have lined up.